Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel, Boring Channel 8. My name is Anthony. I have yet another video that I found interesting. I haven't seen it yet, but I found the title interesting. The title is Palantir CEO just dropped massive truth bomb on live CNBC. This video is from Russell Brand's channel. Shout out to Russell Brand. I find it interesting because it includes or involves Alex Karp, and anything he has to say I find really interesting. He's an interesting guy to me, the CEO of Palantir, who doesn't know. So yeah, let's get into it.
A lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work, but it's a giant graft machine.
The people criticizing Elon don't want it to happen. And this is going to destroy those people.
Oh no, Elon Musk is an unelected billionaire. That has to be stopped, claim Democrats. Can we talk about George Soros? Oh, we're going to talk about George Soros.
Yeah, already I know what's going on, what's the video going to be really about. It's about Elon Musk digging and digging within the government spending and probably uncovering some very uncomfortable truths about people who have been running the government for a very long time, maybe even people who've been bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats within the government. So, yeah, I totally agree with Alex Karp. These people, they don't want this to happen. That's why they are trying to stop this from happening. Let's see what he has to say further.
Hello there, you awakening wonders, wherever you're watching this. Please join me over. That's what you're going to need if you want to support independent media, because and no one represents that. Overwhelmed and overcome George Soros. Now, and no one represents that more than George Soros. Now, Elon Musk, of course, remains a very controversial figure because he's got an incredible, unprecedented amount of power. And I was thinking about, how can I even begin to analyze and understand Elon Musk with his role at Tesla and SpaceX and now his role in Doge? What I can tell you is that the Democrat Party movement demonstrate further the fact that they're out of step when they criticize Doge because they are dismantling government or because they are sacking government employees. Here's a newsflash. People don't love the government anymore. Do you know why they don't love the government? Because of you. Because you demonstrated government corruption and hypocrisy again and again and again throughout the pandemic, throughout numerous wars, through your behavior in media, through the generals that you bring onto MSNBC to advocate for war without ever declaring that they've got board seats at Raytheon or Northrop Grumman or wherever else.
I gotta say, Russell Brand has an amazing talent to condense a lot of information in a very, very small segment. Where to begin? I mean, yeah, Elon Musk is a controversial figure, and he's multi-layered, and it's very difficult sometimes to agree with things that he does. But generally speaking, I do trust him more. Because he puts himself out there, and he is, to me at least, he seems very transparent as a person, as a public person, as a billionaire. There are many billionaires you don't know who they are, what their names are, what they're doing. With him, you know pretty much what's going on in there, you know, what he's thinking. So, yeah, that's Elon Musk. But also Democratic Party, a lot of people who used to be Democrats, or they feel, like me, for example, I feel like democratic principles some are very close to me, but I cannot sympathize with the party because they are just so hypocritical that it's crazy. And they demonstrate it over and over again, as he says in the video. And it's crazy. It seems very, very interesting how the rhetoric doesn't match really what they're doing in reality. So yeah, yeah.
You have brought about your own demise, and Doge is the weapon against the corruption that you augured with figures like George Soros, who Elon Musk spoke about extensively on his recent appearance on...
we all been there last 3-4 years, and I think a lot of us really opened their eyes to what the Democratic Party really is. And some people had a really hard awakening to, or realization to that. And here we are. I don't understand. Can anybody explain me what's going on with that cross on the forehead? I have no idea what that is.
Joe Rogan. So let's talk about Doge, let's talk about Musk, let's talk about Soros, and let's talk about the decline of the Democratic Party movement. Here, the CEO of Palantir admits that the Democratic Party is committing suicide over Doge.
Look, what I don't like about what's going on is I just view this as, well, let's watch the Democratic Party commit suicide. And like, I've been a Democrat most of my life. I kind of view myself as outside it, but I don't like watching the Democrats just commit suicide. And what I see is most of the country doesn't really, at this point, given the fraud, waste, and abuse we know is there, 90% of the country is like, get rid of that fraud, waste, and abuse. And I just view this as yet another example of the progressive left boxing themselves into a suicide dance. Now, what the progressive left should be doing is saying, okay, Elon, you're clearly the most qualified person in the world to do something like this. We want to dialogue with you about how you're doing and what are you doing. I don't believe that's actually what happened. And again, I like Elon. I know I think he's obviously the most important builder in the world. And I just think, if you want to say my former side, I don't believe that they're actually engaging. I think it's like another dance where I'm supposed to say, of course, like whatever. It's like there's this one issue where I might, and then you get boxed into you cannot solve the problem. And then I would say, what is the biggest problem in this society? Biggest problem in this society from my perspective is legitimacy of our institutions. Why aren't they legitimate? They're not legitimate.
Honestly, shout out to Russell Brand. I've seen this video before. This is not new. It's not... I think it's like 1 month, 1.5 month old, and I've seen this. I've listened to him talking about this, and he's right. He's right in everything. I'm sorry to interrupt. He's right in everything he says. I'm going to let him speak.
Because, okay, do any of you really believe that 99% of your taxpayer dollars are being spent? But last and not least, and probably arguably most importantly, there's two revolutions happening. One is transparency and one is AI. Okay, so why is it that we do not know where every penny of our money goes? Like, how do you explain that to people? And by the way, slightly more technically, what large language models do is you can go into the contracts and see exactly what happened. So in the past, we couldn't do this. Now we can. The right response is...
So what is he saying now with the last thing that he said? Yeah, we have now large language models who can go into these contracts, and we couldn't. I mean, technically, we could. But the problem was the sheer volume of doing that. And I mean, when I'm thinking about it, we probably couldn't technically really do it, because even if we could go into those contracts, put the data together and find these things within the data is really difficult. And that's what AI can do for us. It can really bring control over spending and transparency over spending to level that is unmatched. It can completely wipe out corruption. Not completely, maybe, because humans, as long as we have real money that we are paying with, physical money, humans will, and even in those times, even when we don't have them, we will have crypto. So humans will always find a way how to scam the system a little bit, I think. But we can really achieve high percentage of, especially in the government spending, whatever people are doing within each other, if they're evading taxes or whatever, is one thing. But government spending should be clean as just perfect. And we should see through it. We should be able to see it really for what it is. And we are approaching that time. And also he says transparency. Transparency is really the revolution of what's happening in America. And I think more people want it. I hope that more people want it. Also here in Europe, transparency in everything that is being done and less corruption. Because let's be honest, corruption is even in the most, as we call it, civilized Western countries, corruption is there, but it's just higher, it's just tougher to reach the point where you can actually do the corrupt things that you're doing. But I believe the top is very corrupted in every single big country. I cannot speak for northern countries, but I'm talking France, England, Germany, Italy, Spain. I think the corruption is certainly there. Anyway, let's go on.
We want this to happen. We want to happen. We want to be involved in the dialogue. The real response is it feels like the people criticizing Elon don't want it to happen. And this is going to destroy those people.
What is the Democrat Party going to become if even people...
Exactly. I think this is spot on. They don't want this to happen. A lot of the people who were in the government and who are not in the government anymore, or maybe even people who are right now within the government, they don't want it to happen because what it could uncover, what it could unearth. I'm really, really curious what's going to happen throughout this year regarding this Doge, corruption, government spending, and all those things that are going to be dug out, It's going to be interesting for sure.
People that are dyed-in-the-wool supporters are starting to doubt them. Is the movement irrelevant? Have they allied themselves so deeply with commercialism and globalism and empty rhetoric and wokeism that really just cause...
That might be the Democratic Party. What the Democratic Party is something I see here in Europe on almost throughout the whole spectrum, throughout the whole political spectrum, I think. And I find it very, very interesting how America shifted within the last, let's say, 10 years. And Europe stayed the same. We are not honest and pragmatical. We are trying to push agendas that might not necessarily serve us that well. And that's what exactly happened in Democratic Party, I think.
And causes division rather than unity.
And causing division, exactly. I reacted today to Macron addressing the nation, and he basically didn't... I didn't hear the whole speech, I'll be honest. I couldn't, because it was all rumbling about war and war machines and how much the Russian has and how much we probably cannot need to have wage war with them. I find it completely insane and dangerous. And this is where the Democratic Party found itself, really. And the American people just refused that completely. There is a still big chunk of American population that leans towards that kind of thinking, but it's very dangerous because there's nothing good there going, for all-out war, and we have to wage war to just not let them set a precedence when they take land. This is dangerous. I feel like it's dangerous because what it invites are these thoughts of, Russia wants the whole Europe.
Committed suicide as a party. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Certainly, the fact that they coalesce around figures like Bill Gates and the other Bill, Epstein's island hopping buddies, or that George Soros appears to be such a significant and shadowy figure behind the power of the Democrat Party.
George Soros, somebody I've heard ever since I was a teenager in high school. George Soros' name everywhere. George Soros has so much influence, and he is just, according to my understanding, he's been funding parties in multiple states all over Europe. He has his influence in America. Very politically influential billionaire who works from the shadows, which is complete opposite to what Elon Musk does.
I suggest that they have their own billionaires, they have their own corruption, and they ultimately and significantly don't like American people. Here's Elon Musk talking with Joe Rogan about the influence and impact of George Soros and his particularly ingenious hack, how he even became George.
This I'm really interested in this.
George Soros in the first place. Now, my favorite bit of information about Soros was when Mike Benz helped me to understand that Soros has preemptive and early information on conflicts like, for example, Ukraine v. Russia, and that he's able to get into an advantageous financial position because of his relationships with NGOs and CIA cutouts. That essentially, these people aren't billionaires because of ingenuity, but because of corruption, cronyism, and hypocrisy. Here's Musk revealing maybe a little too much to Rogan, or is this just how the world works now? Let me know what you think in the comments and chat.
Hey, revealing too much, I don't think there's really anything like revealing too much. You should be transparent, and even in information that you learn to know, be transparent to the public. We deserve the truth. We deserve to understand the whole picture, because there's no way we follow somebody without understanding what those people are really about, right?
It's kind of a hack to the system where someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros was really good at this. Like George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage. I mean, these days he's pretty old, but a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit, then lobby the politicians to send a ton of money to that nonprofit, so you can take what might be, a $10 million donation to a nonprofit to create a nonprofit and leverage that into $1 billion NGO. A nonprofit is a weird word. It's just a non-governmental organization, and then the government continues to fund that every year, and it'll have a nice sounding name like the Institute for Peace or something like that. But really, it's a graft machine.
And what are their requirements with that money? What do they have to do?
Just really no requirements at all.
So they just get grants and the government just assumes that they're doing good work.
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work, but it's a giant graft machine.
Is this kind of inside?
What is this really? I mean, it baffles me. like you put down like $10 million plus some lobby money for, I mean, maybe I'm just a stupid man, but what isn't lobbying just synonym for bribing almost nowadays? I don't understand that. And then he turns it to $1 billion because he gets donations.
That allows Trump to now do stand-up about USAID and the bizarre, berserk projects and schemes that American taxpayer dollars were being spent on. Even if there's more complexity than Trump claimed in his rhetoric, certainly we don't want Iraqi Sesame Street to be prioritized over hurricanes or...
Okay, that was enough. Thank you, Russell Brand. Again, shout out to Russell Brand. If you guys don't subscribe to Russell Brand or don't watch him, go watch him. He's a really interesting and amazing dude, and you get really a position that is trying to be unbiased, I would say. Also, subscribe to this channel and like and comment to this video. Let me know what you think. I'm really baffled. I'm really baffled what has been allowed, basically. And it's been through all the governments. Let's be honest, it's not just Democrats. Okay, we are now maybe a little bit too harsh on them, but there have been also Republican governments that also allowed these kinds of schemes and these kinds of things to happen. And there is probably more and more. I'm really keen to hearing more, and let's see us in the next video. Let me know what you think. See you next time. Stay curious.